So some of you may remember that back in early 2021, we did a budget gaming PC build. And at the time it was hard to get a graphics card. And right now it's still hard to get a graphics card, kind of like anything. So with this new build, we're actually not going to be using a GPU. Instead, we're going to be using a Ryzen APU. So let's take a look at all the parts that we've got and start getting into this build. So in the assortment of parts here, we have a few new ones. You know, we've got the Ryzen CPU, we've got the this Vetroo, I think it's called, M01. I hope that's how you pronounce that. Some RAM that I've actually had for a while. It's kind of just been like sitting around. And then this is actually a board that I used in my streaming rig previously and had to swap it out for some other reasons. We got a little M2 drive there, 3 terabyte SSD. I got another 250 gig SSD here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that yet. Over here I've got just a couple of fans. I'll talk about those later. We've got the H50 AIO that I'm most likely going to use, and also this 600 watt power supply that, again, I just pulled from another piece of hardware that was sitting around that is not getting used anymore. So the goal of this build really is just to put together a budget build with parts that are accessible right now. So like right now, the 5600G processor is, at least when I bought it, was fairly readily available. So that's good. Cases you can get, no problem. Let's see, power supplies. I don't know if there are any issues getting power supplies right now, but anyway, I'm putting all this stuff together, and what I'm going to end up doing then is putting together a list of all of the parts that I used here, so that if you want to build the same thing, you can go out and build it. Otherwise, you can look for some comparable parts and you know, kind of do your own thing. And then once we actually have the whole machine built, what we're going to do is we're going to benchmark it against the machine that we built in early 2021, and we're going to see how it compares. So as we start taking a look at the motherboard here, this machine is actually just going to be a machine for the living room, meant for, you know, couch gaming, maybe a little bit of emulation, just a way to store some media that I like to run over the network, and who knows what else. I'm sure I'll find some stuff to do with it. So before I attempt to take this thing out of the box, I do want to point out this is the ASRock, can't really see my pointing finger, ASRock B450M motherboard. And this is great. It was a great little board. The only reason I took it out of the streaming rig was because it's one-handed crap. 1 second. The only reason I actually took it out of the streaming rig is because this only has one PCIe slot, and I needed like 2 or 3 for some stuff I was doing. So this has just been sitting in my closet, and so now I'm going to repurpose it. For the processor and, well, for graphics, so the APU here, we're going to be using a AMD Ryzen 5 5600G. So that's a 6-core, 12-thread processor, and runs at about 4.4 gigahertz. So yeah, comes with a cooler, but like I said, I think we're going to use this Corsair H50 AIO, and I bought a new bracket for this because it didn't originally have one for this socket, so hopefully that bracket works out. If not, we have the backup here. So let me go ahead and get this out of the package, because, you know, one-handed stuff, and then we'll get this on the board. Alrighty, so let's see if I can do this without breaking any pins. Hey, one-handed. What do you know? Okay, lock that into place, and we're all good to go there. Let's go with memory next, which of course is in a package, so 1 sec. All right, so here we've got a 16 gig kit of RGB memory from Team Group. So 8 gigs per stick, DDR4 3600, and yeah, this should look pretty nice because the case is actually white, so this will kind of look nice with this black and white board and the white case and everything. So let's pop these in there. Pull that side in, pull that back a little. That side clicked. That side clicked. All right, I think we're good. Now this one. Okay. cool. Memory is good. This is a 256 gig SanDisk M.2 drive, and I think I'm going to use this for the OS just because it's, you know, kind of small and compact, and we can just kind of slap it in the board there and we don't have to run any cables to it. But I am going to have to do this off camera because I need to, you know, hold this down and actually put the screw in. That is in there nice and tight, and we really don't have much more going on to this. Like, I know I'm probably gonna put this mechanical drive in there at some point, but obviously we need the case for that. So I think I'm just gonna move on to the case and we'll see what that looks like and see how this all fits in there. So it's probably a little bit hard to see, but this case actually has like a 200, there you can kind of see a 200 millimeter fan just in the front here. No other fans that come with the case, but that's okay because I have a couple if I need it. It's also got this cool little like pull tab kind of thing here, which is neat. The door is magnetic, and it's actually like a door on a hinge, but you can, you know, slide it up and off, which I think, let's see if it just slides. There we go. So I'm gonna set this down. Here we go. Now tip this over. Yeah, it looks like there's a bag of hardware in the back I'm gonna have to take out, and yeah, so we'll pop that back panel off, get that hardware out of there, and then start getting things mounted. I just wanted to show this off because this is actually pretty cool. There's like these nice, like, it's like a hard plastic channel for cable management, which is pretty cool. Like, I don't think I've seen that in a case before. Looks like we got a spot for that drive back here if we need it. Power supply bay. Yeah, so that looks all good. Cool. We've definitely got room for activities in here, and you know, looks good. I think I was kind of holding the radiator, you know, in here, and holding the water block on there, and I think that I've got some space. That radiator's a little dusty. It's gonna have to be cleaned out. I think we've got enough room to install it, so I'm actually going to attach the bracket to the back plate on here and see if we can fit it in there. Hopefully it works. Otherwise, like I said, I've got fans as a backup, and we've got the heatsink that came with the processor. So either way we decide to go, we're in pretty good shape. I've got the radiator and the fan partially mounted here, and I want to show you this real quick. So if you're only putting a fan in the back of the case, there are like a couple of mounting holes up there, and then there's also these longer ones that allow you to kind of slide back and forth. I mean, not if you're using those, of course, but what I ended up doing is putting mounting the fan in the radiator here because these little extra tabs at each end of the radiator wouldn't allow me to put it in anyway if I was using these two fan holes up here. So this way everything kind of fits, and I think I can get these tubes in there without kinking them or anything like that. So I'm gonna finish buttoning this up, and then we can move on. Radiator's all tightened up, and I do have the fan plugged in. Actually, that's plugged into the wrong spot. I'm gonna have to fix that. This is going to fit in there. Try not to smack the processor around a whole lot. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to see with my hand in the way anyway. But that's gonna fit in there, and the tubes are just fine. But I just realized that in order for me to get to the that 4-pin back there for the board power, I am going to have to probably gonna have to install the power supply right now. So let's talk about that for a sec. This is, let me flip it around. This is a Coolmax 600 watt power supply. Again, I just pulled this from another machine that I had laying around. So we're gonna slap that bad boy in there, and then once that's done, we can route some of the cables and, you know, get this board all hooked up. Hopefully get that out of the way so we can finish hooking up the heatsink there, or the pump for the AIO, and then we're getting pretty close to being done. So cool. Let me yeah, let's get that power supply in here. Well, I went a little crazy on this thing. As you can see, I've got cables all over the place. I actually connected the that 3 terabyte hard drive just to kind of get all the cabling in place and out of the way, because I knew it was going to be a pain in my butt. So yeah, I've got all of the rest of the cabling connected to the motherboard. I still haven't put the pump on there yet, just because I wanted to make sure everything else was out of the way first. So now I think honestly that's going to be the last piece, and then we can actually boot this thing up and make sure that it posts. I lied. So this fan, well, radiator, this fan is actually an intake. The manual recommended that should definitely be an intake. So what I did is, well, since that's an intake, I'm going to flip this fan around, because this is also being utilized as an intake. So we're actually going to vent from there instead of intaking air. Wait, no. We're not going to intake air from here. We're going to vent it from there. So I'm just flipping this fan around. That was a long way of me saying that. So let's get this fan flipped around. Then I'm going to button up the whole case, and then we'll plug it in and see if it does its thing. All buttoned up. Time for this to come off, although I didn't think that was gonna work. Well, this is the moment of truth. I've got a monitor and the PC, and we're just gonna make sure it posts. So here goes nothing. Well, we got RGB. That's looking good. I'll take that. Cool, so that's good. Now let's see if we actually get something on this monitor, because so far that is not looking good. Bueller. Okay, well, cable's plugged in, and that cable is plugged in. Is there an input on here I need to switch to? Why am I not getting like anything on this monitor? Hello? Okay, so there's that. No signal. I don't know why the menu isn't appearing here. Well, I'm not exactly sure what's going on right now, but I know it's one of a couple of things. So I know the monitor works because I hooked that up, or I actually just pulled it from a PC that I know was working. So we know the monitor's good. The cable has not been tested. I mean, usually I don't put a cable back in a drawer if it's bad, so I'm assuming the cable's good, but I'm gonna have to find another cable to test out, which I should be able to do. If a new cable doesn't fix it, it could actually be that processor. Well, the board, actually. I know that I updated the BIOS on this board when I had my 2600X in there, which was fairly recently, but because these are new CPUs, that 5600G may not be supported. So I may actually have to pull this CPU back out, put my other one in, flash the BIOS, and then swap it back out again and see if that works. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna start streaming here in a little while, so I'm going to finish this up probably tomorrow and do all the troubleshooting, because I'm sure you guys don't really want to see all the troubleshooting, but I'll do all the troubleshooting, come back, tell you what it was, and then after that we can talk about benchmarks and all the other good stuff, pricing and whatnot that came with this build.
1 week later.
Well, it has been a literal week. Actually, I take that back. It's been 2 weeks since the last clip that you just saw. I did get the troubleshooting done relatively quick, but then real life stuff happened, and now I'm finally getting back to filming this. So as you can see, the machine is up and running here. We've got video, so that's all good. Like I said, I did the troubleshooting. I also made some changes. So what I want to do is talk about that stuff first, and then after that we'll get into benchmarks, cost, and we'll also do a comparison of the late 2021 build versus the one that we built earlier this year. in troubleshooting this, the first thing that I did actually was replacing the memory just to make sure that it wasn't something with the new memory I was using. I pulled it out of my streaming rig because it's the same memory, and I knew that it would fit and that it worked. So that wasn't the issue. I then swapped out the processor for my 2600X, which was also for my streaming rig, and that didn't fix the issue. So I knew that there was not really a whole lot left other than the M2 drive that's hiding in there, and I was like, man, I don't think this is going to be it. But sure enough, I pulled it out, reseated it, and all of a sudden I got video. So I did have to update the BIOS because the 5600 and 5700 support wasn't in the current BIOS that I had, so I did have to update that. And then once I updated the BIOS, I put everything back together with the 5600G and the right memory, and again using the same M2, and that was all I needed. That fixed the issue. Then we got our lovely video on the screen. So with that, I also had to make some changes, right? So I didn't have to make changes, but I kind of wanted to make some changes. So I currently have a 2.5-inch SSD plugged in. It's hidden underneath there. If you wanted to actually put them in your system, you could mount them on the front here. Just, 2 little slots there for an SSD. Mine's temporary, and I'm going to remove it. I just wanted to put it in there so I have some storage while I'm trying to do the benchmarks. Turns out my mechanical drive was bad, so I'm going to have to find another one in my stash that is known working, or I'll just buy a new one and put it in there, because I do want quite a bit of storage for this machine. So that changed, and then the other thing that changed is you'll probably see the Corsair logo is the right way, but now we have these tubes that are kind of blocking the memory, which is what I was trying to avoid before, and also trying to get these out of the path of the flowing air. But the Corsair logo is like really bothering me, so I flipped it, and so now that's in there and looks good. Arguably, I don't know, maybe move these a little bit. So I don't know. It's good for now. The fan's a little loud, so I may switch to air cooling at some point. But I had this little closed loop laying around, and I thought that would be a good idea to toss that in there just to keep the temps down. So like I said, machine's built. We've got our video. So let's go ahead and run the benchmarks, and then do the comparison and the cost breakdown. Well, there you have it, everybody. The benchmarks are in for that PC, and it ran everything over 30 frames per second with the exception of Far Cry 5. I would give it a pass on Far Cry 5 just because that is a little more difficult to run on low-end hardware. But I will say that I was a little bit disappointed that only a handful of games actually made it above 60 FPS. So before I give my final thoughts on this, let's do a quick comparison with our early 2021 build just to see how it compared. You'll notice that our late 2021 build, so the PC in this video, is in blue, and the early 2021 build is in purple. And based on what you can see here, we did outperform in Fortnite somehow. So great for Fortnite players. But in pretty much every other game on this slide here, it didn't do so well. Moving on to the next one, basically the same thing again. We did have some decent performance in F1 2019, where we did surpass the early 2021 build, and Automobilista actually worked really well, but still didn't perform as well as our early 2021 build. So the last comparison for this build is obviously the price. Our early 2021 build only cost us $600 versus our late 2021 build, which cost us $663. Now, in the spreadsheet where I have all the parts listed, you can get this down to that $600 price point, but if parts are available, it definitely makes more sense to go with the early 2021 build based on price. That is pretty much it for this build, everybody. Like I said, if you have parts and you can get parts, it definitely makes sense to build the early 2021 machine just because the benchmarks perform so much better than this machine did. That being said, I did mention a couple of things in the spreadsheet for the parts list. For example, you could get a B550 motherboard and that may increase your performance a little bit. I can't guarantee that because I don't have one laying around to test it, but you could do that. Not performance related, but you could do without the liquid cooling. You could just use the fan that comes with the CPU. And if you do that, you'll pretty much get yourself down to that $600 price point. The only reason I would recommend building this is if, one, you just need like a low end spec PC laying around. Like I said, this one's going to be in the living room. It'll play some media. Maybe we can do some emulation, some light couch gaming. But really, if you're going to build this, because you can get the parts right now versus the other one, our early 2021 PC where you can't, I would look for an upgrade path. So what I mean by that is you can use this for some light gaming and stuff like that. If you have an old video card laying around or you happen to get one cheap from a friend or on eBay, toss that in there. Or maybe you're just holding off until you can actually get a new graphics card, in which case this processor is newer and faster, so you're definitely going to get better performance if you toss a GPU in there alongside of it. If you found this video useful or helpful, remember to rate and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions on anything, and check me out on my other socials, and especially over on Twitch, where I do have my schedule posted, and I'm usually streaming 2 to 3 days a week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.